Right, hello everyone. I'm back outside Dewsbury Health Centre. I wanted to do another walk around, as I said, well, a few, but I just haven't had time this month, and it's not stopped raining since the new year. But anyway, it's mostly because I haven't had time. But I wanted to do this quickly because this has been bothering me. When I came here on the first walk around, I made some comments about Dewsbury Health Centre and how hard Kirklees Council were working to get it back open. And it was kindly pointed out to me in the comments that that was rubbish. They really aren't working hard at all. And I should have known this, and I'm annoyed with myself because I always thought it was financial. I was only sort of recently, from the reporting, it's reported in the BBC, it's reported in the local press, that it was to do with the concrete. But whilst, you know, whatever that issue is, it was financial, and there was never a will to keep this building open. It was Kirklees Active Leisure, who are the outsourced group that run all the leisure centres, were losing a lot of money, and it obviously at the time Dewsbury Council were facing deficits. I mean, 14 years of austerity is sort of the reason for this, but there was never a will really in Kirklees Council to keep this building open, and as a consequence it was closed. It was allegedly losing £1 million a year. Kirklees Active Leisure described this as the biggest loss-making health centre. And there was a cabinet meeting, so it was closed in 2023, and there was a cabinet meeting last year which basically made the final decision to not open this sports centre. There were some quite amazing comments made in that meeting about I mean, one of the councillors said the building could fall apart in 2 weeks or 200 years, which, I mean, I think you can pretty much say about any building anywhere. There was a comment about, you know, even the health inequalities in Dewsbury, they existed even with the health centre, which is, I mean, for me, that's on a par with let them eat cake. The sort of suggestion that, oh well, you know, they're unfit anyway, so what difference does a health centre make, is quite a staggering comment on a community resource. The local councillor, Dewsbury West councillor, Tanisha Bramwell, who amongst other things runs a food bank and just presents herself as a really quite a decent person. She sort of talked about the importance of the health centre in the community and in her own life, and again, there was sort of suggestions that people's attachment to this building were to do with nostalgia and sentimentality. And again, a comment about, oh, there are lots of private gyms now in the area with reasonable prices, but I mean, sort of completely missing the point of a community resource, a community health centre. So there were all kinds of suggestions, giving it over to the community. That didn't happen. Knocking the wet side down and turning it into a car park. I mean, a car park, seriously? But in the end, the decision was made to close it. There was, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of lots of other people, there was simply no will to keep this building open. There's an 8-page document on the internet, you can look at it, about the future of the health centres here, and I'm going to go to Batley Baths in a second, because that was closed down at the same time, and there was no dressing up there, it was purely financial. So I go to Rothwell now with my kids, and I mean, it's a great health centre, is Rothwell, but it's on the edge of Leeds. I can go because I can drive, but if you haven't got that access, and again, it misses the point of a community council-owned health centre, which is that it gets involved in community projects, it gets involved in supporting the local community and people through sort of the different activities that it offers. But now it's closed. bloody great big lorry drove past me. So I asked if I could, that's what they were doing, if it's bringing it back into circulation. It isn't, they're stripping it back to basics, their words, back to basics. I asked if I could come in and take some pictures, but they said no, so there you go. But I've just had a sneaky sort of shooting through the door. It's the best I'm going to get. So this is Batley Baths. It closed in 2023. Couldn't afford to keep it going. And it was sold last week at auction to a private buyer. People don't know who yet, but no longer in council ownership. Perfectly decent health centre and swimming baths that the people of Batley no longer have. '1802. I mean, you know, with a bit of luck, someone's bought it who's going to turn it into continue it as a community resource. But you know, there's no guarantee of that at all. So the travesty here is there's no suggestion of concrete or any other kind of... It was facing a 1.5 million maintenance bill, but this was closed for purely financial reasons. There was no other dressing up. Cathy Scott, the councillor for Dewsbury East, said we could have got it up and running again. Say that again, we could have got this up and running again. So it's a perfectly decent building, and now it's no longer in council ownership. And like 318,000, what will that do to a £18 million potential deficit next year? It's pennies. There just isn't the will to keep buildings like this open, in my opinion. I was just reflecting on that conversation I had with the contractors while I was driving, and I mean, I asked if they'd let me in. They said no, and I mean, you know, they must take pictures, but I do genuinely think it's an insurance thing, that, you know, if they let me in, it's not their building, I injure myself. Anyway, I think they won't let me in, but they were very polite. But they said, yeah, stripping back to basics. So that means one of two things, doesn't it? Either that's it, that's the end of that building, stripping it back to basics pre it being torn down, or the other one is that stripping it back to basics, they're going to upgrade it and it's going to be the you know, an all singing all dancing health centre. I mean, one of the councillors said that part of the problem is the heating and boiler, I think it was the heating and boiler, are in the wet side of the building, and that powers the dry side, so it's going to cost a lot of money to redo. I don't know how true that is, but the building can't be used for anything else then, can it, without a lot of investment, which could potentially come from a private buyer, I guess. But yeah, Kirklees Council say they're committed to a brand new health centre for Dewsbury and Batley. None of us believe that. There's no evidence of it, so I want to be proved wrong on that. Prove us wrong, and prove us wrong soon, because we've got nowhere to go. There's no, you know, that was a massive, an important part. And I do get the money thing. I work in the public sector, I understand money issues, but you know, 2023, when the Batley one was, well, when they were both closed, but the Batley one was clearly closed, was very clearly badged as this is financial. That was the year that Rishi Sunak was having his own private pool built in his own house. You know, it's just not equitable, it's not fair, and it's not reasonable. And you expect more from your councillors, don't you? And the Dewsbury councillors have been really pulling to see something, well, to keep it open in the first instance, but to see something done for the local community. But again, like I say, you don't get the sense that that's the wider view of the Kirklees. And it's such a shame when you're starting to see some regeneration in these areas. Not a great deal, but we need a health centre. We haven't got a health centre. We need somewhere for kids to go, and families to swim. And anyway, yeah, prove us wrong.